Welcome to Sports Extra. I'm your host Ali Gohar. Tonight we're going to focus on the upcoming FIFA World Cup, Russia 2018. It's going to be a fantastic affair, and the draws came out last night. There are 8 groups and there are 4 teams in each group. There was a magnificent event held in Kremlin Palace. You can see Vladimir Putin there speaking at the Kremlin Palace. It was also hosted by Gary Lineker, a football legend. Maradona was there as well. And all the head coaches were also present at the Kremlin Palace. So we're going to talk about all the groups and the teams in great detail and some of the players to watch out for with 2 guests in the studio. I've been joined by Mr. Ali Mehdi. Ali, great to see you.
Thanks for having me, Ali.
And we also have Mr. Taimur Khan, who's a football consultant here in Islamabad. Taimur, great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. First of all, let's talk about the event that took place. It really was a star-studded event at the Kremlin Palace. Finally, I got that right. I had trouble saying that. Don't know why. But it was a magnificent event, and it's created great anticipation. We can't wait for this to happen, Russia 2018.
Well, Ali, all I can say, it was just like you put it straight away. I mean, star-studded event yesterday at the glorious Kremlin Palace. You had legends of the game, head coaches, Gary Lineker who presented it. It all went on time. It went smoothly yesterday. I mean, and some fascinating matches which have taken place. Look, Russia 2018, it was all, if you look at the background of 2018 when the bid took place in 2010, Vladimir Putin had a huge say. He actually, the president of Russia, he really wanted this to come, and he heavily invested in the bidding process and also for this tournament to take place in Russia. And after they won in 2010, all work has been underway so that this magnificent event comes to the East Europe for the first time. And what a way then to have it yesterday at Kremlin Palace at, in a spectacular event.
All eyes were on the draw, Taimur. I'm sure you were watching it closely. What did you make of it? How did you enjoy it?
Well, it's definitely a very interesting draw. Some really great matches are going to take place. I would not say that any group is an easy one. Most of the teams are going to struggle to, go beyond the group stages. So it will keep things interesting down to the last group game.
Right, let's look at the teams, shall we? Let's start with Group A. It's interesting to see there's no real group of death, but yeah, there are some very competitive groups in there. This is the first one. You've got Russia and Saudi Arabia. They'll play the first game.
That is correct. They'll
of
be
the
playing
World Cup,
at
and then
Moscow.
you've got Egypt, who qualified in a dramatic fashion thanks to Mohamed Salah, who plays for Liverpool. And you have Uruguay. Ali, your thoughts on Group A?
Well, first of all, Russia, being the host nation, they were always going to be seeded, come out in Group A, the first team which were out of the pot. Other than that, Saudi Arabia, who qualified very easily, from the Asia Pacific region. Uruguay came 4th in the continental groups from South America. So, they had some tricky time qualifying, but eventually came 4th in the last slot. And then after that, we have Saudi Arabia, who also managed to qualify with relative ease. So yeah, it's an interesting group if you put about it. But I wouldn't say any of these 4 teams can go through. There's no real heavyweight in that group. You see the likes of Russia, they're playing at home. They'll have their fans behind them. They'll be under a lot of pressure, to perform well. They've never made it to the second round of a World Cup, so they'll definitely want that. They'll definitely want to do that. Saudi Arabia have neither qualified into the knockout round, so they'll also want to put that to bed. I would say that out of these 4 teams, Uruguay have a very good chance. They have the informed Cavani over there, who's been in spectacular fashion, doing extremely well for Paris Saint-Germain. They have Luis Suarez over there, so they have a lot of firepower in their ranks. And I think out of the top 4 teams, if there's anybody who's going to finish on top of that group, it's going to definitely be Uruguay.
A lot of people are talking about Egypt. Some people believe that they'll be the dark horses of this tournament, the same way Senegal were in 2002. And that's mainly because Mohamed Salah is in fantastic form.
Yeah, definitely. After around 20 years, Egypt have returned to the World Cup. Not a lot is known about their team because obviously most of the players, they're not playing in the so-called bigger leagues in Europe. But apart from Mohamed Salah, this team is very strong. They have a very good attack and they have a very well-balanced midfield, which will make things very interesting. They had a very strong outing during the qualifiers in Africa, And apart from Mohamed Salah, they have a couple of other players to watch out for. Trezeguet, who plays in Qasim Pasa in Turkey, and then they have Omar Gaber, who recently switched from FC Basel to LAFC, and then they have Amir Varda. So they have some really talented young players in the squad. So yeah, I actually see them springing up a couple of surprises. Things for Russia would be difficult because even at home in the last year, they have not been able to be as dominant as they should have been. So, you know, they would be under a lot of pressure to deliver and would be hoping that they, you know, fate doesn't follow them the way it did with South Africa when they hosted the World Cup and then come out of the group stages.
Russia will obviously be looking to make a huge impact early on. Of course, they're the home side, and more than that, early their athletes have been under a lot of scrutiny because of doping issues. That's mainly athletics, not really football, but Russia do feel right now, especially in sport, that the whole world is against them. So they'll really be looking to prove a point here.
They'll definitely be wanting to prove a point. Let's not forget last year, the Olympics in 2016 in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro. I mean, although the focus was on them, that they had actually tainted the sport, they had tainted the Olympics. So, you know, this is a way for them to actually put everything to bed and put everything right. And going forward, you know, they've actually not really had to qualify. They haven't, being the host nation, you don't actually have to qualify for the World Cup when you're the Football World Cup. So they actually have had it really easy their way. They've actually been practicing very hard. They've been playing in their leagues. But I'd say that if there is any team which is going to struggle from this group, it's definitely going to be with Russia. You have the likes of Egypt, who, you know, who have a lot of firepower, like Temur just mentioned, Mohamed Salah. So I would say that if any of the two teams who would be favorites in my books, it would definitely be Uruguay and Egypt.
Let's move on to Group B, shall we? We've got Portugal in Group B along with Spain. I think we know that they're the strongest teams in this group, because after that we've got Morocco and we've got Iran. Portugal and Spain, all eyes will be on them, of course.
Definitely. Portugal, after winning the European Championship a couple of years back, they would definitely be, you know, looking at their chances and thinking that they should definitely make it out of the group. Spain, on the other hand, they might not be the force they used to be 4 years back, but then again, they have a very good squad at hand. Every player has a very good replacement, so they would be very strong. Obviously, Morocco and Iran won't be there to just make up the numbers. But then again, I think that it's a pretty straightforward group for both Portugal and Spain.
I would tend to disagree, because I feel that whilst Portugal and Spain are the big heavyweights, this is the group of death. You were mentioning that there's no real group. This is the group of death. The reason I say that is that, look, Portugal and Spain, they're going to be outright favorites, but don't count out Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran. Islamic Republic of Iran are coached by Portugal's former manager, Carlos Queiroz, who actually coached them in the 2010 World Cup. So he'll have something to say about them. He's been with the team for about 2 years now, and he's actually built this team. And not much is known about this Iran team, but they've cruised past the qualifying phase in Asia. So I would say that they tend to do very well. And Morocco too. Morocco actually had an easy ride in the over there in the African qualifying phase. So these two teams have actually qualified with relative ease from their respective regions. So I would say that if they could cause Spain and especially Portugal some trouble, but at the end, I think Portugal and Spain should edge this one.
Who's the stronger team, Portugal or Spain, in your opinion? You just mentioned that Spain isn't the force that...
I would still go for Portugal, because they're very pragmatic. They were very pragmatic during the European Championships, and during the qualifiers it was the same thing.
Ali?
I would say that, look, the thing about Spain is that they have depth. They have a replacement, like Temur put it, for each and every player. So Spain, that way, they have the best goalkeeper. They have, you know, magical Iniesta who will be there. They have, you know, they don't have a real out-and-out striker. I would say that that's the area. But other than that, they've got a plethora of midfielders, good defense, and a world-class goalkeeper. They should be difficult to break down. Whereas Portugal have the world player, the 5-time world player of the year, Cristiano Ronaldo. But I would say that, you know, since this is the opening match from Group B on June 15th, Spain just might edge this one, looking at the overall team balance.
Right, let's move on to Group C now. We've got France in there, Australia, Peru, and Denmark, who also made it through in dramatic fashion. Let's talk about France first. Favorites?
Oh, definitely. I mean, judging by the squad they have, they should be favorite in every competition they enter. But you know, the thing
good
about
players in there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in midfield you have the likes of Pogba, you have Matuidi, then you have backups like Mateo Valbuena and a couple of other players. They have the sort of strike force that should be, you know, in the starting 11 of any other country playing in the World Cup. But you know, France tend to be a little unpredictable at times, so it will boil down to the fact that how Didier Deschamps is able to get the best out of his players, because traditionally there always have been some sort of issues at major events with France. Hopefully it might not be the case this time around, but then again, football is a game that can surprise you.
France, more often than not, have always added color and excitement to the World Cup. We saw them light the stage on fire in 1998. They did the same in 2006. Unfortunately, they lost in the final, but they lost in dramatic fashion with the Zidane headbutt. We remember all of that. And now this French side has some fantastic players, so I'm sure you're looking forward to seeing them in action, Ali.
They're one of the entertainers of the tournament. They have so much flair, you know, amongst their team. You know, they have so many superstars in that rank. It's ridiculous. The amount of depth and superstars they have, you know, it's completely uncalled for, you know, that a team with so much, you know, so much magic is actually there. But I would say that, you know, France, you know, of late have done very well. They've gone deep into tournaments. Of late in 2006, they made the final. 2016, we remember they lost the European Championships to eventual winners Portugal. But I'd say if you're looking at this group, France, you know, definitely will top it and should cruise past this group. They have all the firepower, they have the artillery, and they have an excellent goalkeeper in Yegor Lloris. So it should be a, you know, pretty much a cakewalk for them.
Australia, Peru, and Denmark, are they just there to make up the numbers, or do you think they can, one of them, give France a tough time?
I don't think so. I think the likes of Australia and Denmark are not going to be pushovers at all. Australia under Ange Postecoglou, they have been very good. Okay, they did not have the best of qualification matches, but you know, the best thing about this team is that, you know, whatever happens, they always seem to pull through. They are going to give a very tough time to France, and I expect the same thing from Denmark. They might not have star players in every position, but you know, their coach has turned the side into a very well-drilled outfit. Each player knows what he's supposed to do. Their fulcrum is Christian Eriksen, who's been so consistent for Tottenham the past couple of years. So yeah, Denmark are also going to give them a tough time.
I mean, growing up, Ali, I remember Denmark not being a major force, but giving big teams a run for their money. I remember they did it in 1998 quite often. In 92, they won the Euros as well. Schmeichel was the best goalkeeper in the world at that time, probably the best goalkeeper that's ever lived. So, and they did very well in the qualifiers as well. So they shouldn't be taken lightly.
They shouldn't be taken lightly. They destroyed Ireland in the playoffs, winning 5-2 or 5-3 away from home, and eventually coming through the playoffs. So they're going to be no pushovers. In fact, they have that. They have so much. They have a lot of, you know, quality players amongst their ranks that could actually trouble the likes of France. But I'd say that out of all these four teams, it's going to be easily going to be France and this Denmark. I don't see Peru causing any sort of problems. I think they came by fluke. They finished fifth in the qualification phase from South America. So, you know, it should be a really straightforward for these two teams.
Group D. Let's move on to Group D, shall we? We've got Argentina in there, who just managed to make it into the World Cup. It would have been devastating if Argentina didn't make it. We're still getting over the fact that the Netherlands didn't make it, and Italy, of course. You've got Iceland in there as well, Croatia and Nigeria. Temur, you first.
Argentina, well...
Really? I thought you were going to say Croatia.
No, I'm not saying that they're going to qualify right now, but it's a mystery, this team. They have all the talent in the world, but somehow, for some odd reason, they've been unable to, you know, get the job done. They came really close the last time around. But this time around, they have some serious competition in the shape of Iceland and Croatia. Iceland were the dark horses during the European Championships. They defeated England and they reached the semi-final stages. So they're not going to be pushovers at all. They are going to be a very strong force. And now that their squad has experience of playing at the top level, they know exactly what they need to do to get the best out of their matches against the likes of Croatia, even though Croatia is a very strong team. But I think this group is going to be decided on the final match day.
I think Taimur made some fine points there. I mean, people who aren't really following football will probably look at this group and think Argentina are outright favorites. And they probably are, maybe favorites. But when you look at Iceland, you already mentioned how Iceland have sort of overachieved. And then you've got Croatia, who have some fantastic players in their lineup. So it's not going to be easy for, I think it's safe to say, an out-of-form Argentina.
This is a really tricky group and a very difficult one to call, just like Taimur mentioned it over here. You have Argentina, which is probably the most entertaining team in the world, you know, who actually on their day can be the best team to watch, best country to watch in the world. At the same time, you have Nigeria, who have so much strength. You have a physical team, very difficult to break down. You know, they qualified with relative ease from the African region. And then other than that, Iceland, who can forget their magical run last year, defeating England along the way and then losing in the quarterfinals. And then other than that, you have the fourth group, which is who is the fourth group is fourth team.
Nigeria, Croatia,
sorry,
Iceland.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Croatia, who qualified through the playoffs. They have so much flair and entertainers in that group. So, you know, this is going to be a difficult group to call. I mean, I won't say it's a group of death, but it's a very tough one to call. Argentina should go through, and Croatia should just about. But don't be surprised if the likes of Nigeria actually sneak through.
And it can't just, for Argentina, it can't all be about Lionel Messi, while he is no doubt the greatest player that's ever lived. I think it's safe to say that. But the others have to support him. They've got to have his back.
Messi has been very unlucky in this regard that unlike Barcelona, where he has so many talented players around him, at the end of the day, whenever he's playing for Argentina, his teammates, more or less, they have always let him down. So I think it's the team should be more about Argentina than just Lionel Messi. There should be people, senior players, who are supposed to share his burden.
Right, let's move on to Group E now. We've got Brazil in there. They certainly have a point to prove to Brazil, especially what happened in the last World Cup. We've got Switzerland, we've got Costa Rica, and we have Serbia. Ali, first Brazil. Like I said, big point to prove after what Germany did to them in the last World Cup.
After what Germany did to them, they had an absolute cakewalk in the qualifying. I mean, they were untouchables. Nobody could even come close to them. Whilst you had the likes of Uruguay, Argentina struggling to make the World Cup, Brazil did it ages ago. They did it weeks ago. And the reason they did that is because they learned from their previous mistakes. They knew that whatever tweaks, whatever changes, whatever they needed to do, they do it in the qualifying phase. And that they have also, at the same time, they replaced their coach Dunga with a more with a coach which has actually done very well more recently. So Brazil, you know, this time they'll have a point to prove, and I think they should qualify with relative ease from that group. Other than that, Switzerland, they did very well in the European Championships. They made it to the last 16, and they've also, you know, they had to come through the playoffs, and they have amazing players like Shaqiri amongst their Xhaka, who plays for Arslan. So they have some really integral players and some players who are doing well, you know, in top international leagues. So Switzerland shouldn't have a problem, and I think that it should be these two who should qualify with ease.
It really hurt them what happened to them last year against Germany. 7-1 was it at the end?
Yeah, 7-1.
Yeah, so, and you can tell after that they've worked extremely hard to get it together, and it seems as if that they have got it together. They're not going to be an easy team to beat.
Yes, definitely. Flair combined with deadly skill. And it would be a shocker if they do not finish on top of the group. The other three teams would be clawing and scratching for the second place, but Switzerland have quite a lot about them to at least finish second. But Brazil, definitely onus is on them to banish and exorcise the demons of Rio de Janeiro when they were whipped by Germany. and prove a point that that game was just a one-off.
Exorcise the demons of Rio de Janeiro. That's well put. Ali, you wanted a clip in there about Brazil?
Yeah, well, I wanted to tell you something about Brazil. And Brazil is that they are, this time, they have the likes, I think they have the two strongest forwards over there, Gabriel Jesus and also Neymar, who are playing in the top two best teams in Europe right now. So, they will definitely want to put things right. And if there's any team which comes out as favorites, it's definitely Brazil. Alongst you have the Germanys, the Argentinias, but I think Brazil this time could be a force to be reckoned with.
Group F, let's move on to Group F. We've got Germany in there, the mighty Germans. We also have Mexico, Sweden, and South Korea. Taimur?
Germany, on the face of it, everybody would think that it's going to be very easy for them to navigate passage, at least to the last four of the competition. But initially, Germany did not start very well during the qualifiers. They struggled a bit. Then they eventually got their act back together and started performing. They, once again, have a very good squad. But compared to the squad from the previous World Cup, they have a few new stars like Leon Goretzka, then they have Leroy Sané, and then they have Matthias Ginter. So we would be seeing some really exciting young players for Germany. And I think that they would be able to top this group. But obviously, the likes of Mexico would pose a real threat, because when it comes to Mexico, they play all-out attacking football, and they were by far the best team in their region. So it's going to be a tough call, but eventually I see Germany winning this group.
Ali, your views on Group F?
No, I think Germany, it's going to be a walk in the park for them. I mean, probably Mexico will cause some threat. But the thing with Germany, Ali, I wanted to mention to you, Germany is the sort of team which always has, they normally, during the qualifying phase, they can always be up and down. They go through crests and troughs. But when the main competition starts, whether they have their new faces in there, they know how to gel as a team. They know how to play to win. They're physically the most, they might not have many superstars, but when it comes as a team, they know how to get the results. They've done it in the past. They are the defending champions. They are going to be favorites going into this tournament.
Group G now. Let's move on to Group G. We've got Belgium in there. They have some fantastic players do Belgium. You've got Panama, Tunisia, and England. Let's start with Belgium first, Taimur.
Belgium, under Roberto Martinez, this team has really started, it's Roberto Martinez, right?
Yeah, Roberto Martinez is the coach.
The team has really, started changing its philosophy towards football. Rather than being all out exciting all the time, they are very pragmatic during important stages of games. They have a very talented squad, the likes of Axel Witsel, Eden Hazard, and in strike they have the likes of Origi, Lukaku, all players who can actually deliver on the day.
I mean, these are frightening names that Taimur has taken, and they've been playing absolutely brilliantly. But I remember we were speaking about them during the Euros, and they did underperform. So they'll be aware of that. They don't want to bring that to Russia.
They've underperformed in the last two major tournaments, at the Euros 2016 and also at the FIFA World Cup when they were beaten by Argentina. So they've got a point to prove this time. But the thing with Belgium this time is that, Ali, all these players have played in the best leagues in the world. I mean, you can name a top 11 team which is playing, who has actually won, all of these single players have actually won trophies along the way. So they know how to play. They are individually, they are superstars, but they need to gel as a team. This is the one team, we keep on saying it since in 2014, 2016 that they're dark horses. But this is actually the golden generation team. This is the team which you would say that, wow, it's star-studded over there, and that they really need to deliver. If this team does not deliver by winning a major trophy, whether it's the World Cup or the European Championships, then it'll be a lost generation like England had in the early 2000s. Other than that, I want to talk a bit about England. England, the team, everybody was, as an England supporter, they were all worried which the group, whether they're going to be in a group of death. But I'd say that England have been relatively lucky this time. They've gotten into the group where they should cruise past. Other than Belgium, they should cruise past. I don't see Tunisia and Panama as any threat. In fact, Panama, they actually they edged out the USA to actually make it through with this. And Tunisia, they're relatively unknown. They're making the World Cup since 1998. So I'd say that Belgium should top the group, but England should easily beat Tunisia and Panama.
Temu, you mentioned Brazil might have a demon or two after the last World Cup, but England have a number of World Cup demons they need to exercise, lots of them. Ali just mentioned that they should cruise through this group, but there have been many situations where England should have cruised through, but they haven't.
Exactly. Since 1990, England never have gone far in the World Cups.
And they've had such an incredible team. Many occasions they've had world-class teams, but they've fallen short almost every time since 1990.
Yes, between 98 and 2006, they had the best players England had ever produced in the last 50 years.
What was your favorite England World Cup squad during that period?
The 98 squad. That was definitely one of the strongest squads England ever had.
Ali?
For me, it would be 2004, the European Championships. You had an incredible team. You had Rooney, who was just come out of the blocks, this kid out of the blocks. You had David Beckham, Lampard, Scholes, Gerrard. And in the defense, you'd had Rio Ferdinand, Sol Campbell was there, Ashley Cole, Gary Neville. So I don't think as a team you could actually beat that team. That was probably my favorite England team over the years.
Who was your favorite England goalkeeper during that period?
Seaman was definitely, actually Paul Robinson was the goalkeeper for that tournament, but Seaman was probably the best keeper during the 90s, and you know, he will always be unfortunately remembered for that goal which Ronaldinho actually scored off him, off a free kick from like 30, 40 yards out.
Then move back to your thoughts on this England side.
This time around, it's very unique. Expectations in England are very low. They know that it's a young team, it's a team in transition. They have a very inexperienced coach in Gareth Southgate, but they still have a lot of talented players who are getting sufficient amount of minutes on the pitch for their teams in the Premier League. The likes of Rashford, Barkley, Raheem Sterling, all of them, they are performing pretty well. So they would be aware that they need to get the job done when they face the likes of Tunisia and Panama. Obviously, the game against Belgium could prove to be a bridge too far for them. But if they make it out of the group and you know, get a favorable draw in the last 16, you know, they might go further than most people expect them to do.
Which players should we watch out for in England?
It has to be, no doubt, Harry Kane. Harry Kane is the one striker, the hottest striker in the world. He scored already 40+ goals in this calendar year in all competitions. So he is the one who's going to burden all the have the burden of the country's expectations on his shoulders. Wayne Rooney most recently retired, the highest goal scorer, 50+ goals. So it's definitely going to be on him. And other than that, it's going to be Dele Alli, who's been doing very well for Tottenham. These two are going to have to link up very well for each other if this team is going to go far.
Let's move on to Group H. We've got Poland in Group H along with Senegal, Colombia and Japan. Temu, let's start with Poland.
This is going to be quite a group because each and every single team on their day, they can win a game. Simple as that. Poland have a very good squad. Apart from Robert Lewandowski, they have some exciting young players like Arkadiusz Milik. Then they have
Milik is there,
and Kreshwek, who's playing in France. They have it's a very well-drilled outfit, like Polish outfits have been over the years. They are definitely going to perform pretty well. That's what I see in the tournament. But then again, you have some other teams who can actually spring a few surprises. So I'm not certain myself as to where each team would eventually go by the end of the group stage.
Are we going to see fireworks from Poland, Ali?
Oh, we're going to see fireworks. They have the captain, this Lewandowski, who scored the most number of goals in the qualifying. If you give a ball on his plate, he is the most efficient finisher in the world right now. You give him a ball on the plate and he will score, you know, with relative ease.
Is he one of the players to watch out for?
He's definitely one of the players to watch out for. Like I said, he had 15+ goals in qualification. That number speaks volumes for itself. But other than that, they have Milik, who, you know, last year when I was covering the European Championships, I kept on going about this player. I can't understand why he's not in one of the top teams, teams in the world. So I think that Poland is going to have it. Whilst Poland should actually win this group, the other three teams, you know, there are no pushovers. Senegal, you know, have a very good team, and they have a world-class player in the form of Mane is over there. Also, other than that, let's not forget Colombia. Colombia were one of the entertainers of last tournament. This time, they have the talisman Falcao back. They did not have Falcao back, due to which they lost against Brazil in the quarterfinals this time. This time, he has a point to prove. And with James Rodriguez over there, I could see them pulling off some upsets, and they will go far, I can assure you that.
I was hoping one of you would bring Rodriguez up when we're talking about this group. He should do very well in this World Cup. Players to watch out for, our PTV World team pick 10. I'm sure there are more. Let's try to get through them. Let's try to get through as many as we can. Let's start with Isco. What do you make of Isco, and how well do you think he's going to do?
Isco has been in great form this season, even though Real Madrid have had their problems so far. He has been more or less consistent. You know, he's starting to get more appreciated by people. He was underestimated a couple of years back, but now, you know, he's maturing as a player and he's become a very essential team player. So yeah, I expect him to perform very well this time around.
Well, Isco is one of the most underrated midfielders in the world. He's got magical feet. He dribbles with quite ease, and then also he's become a very integral part for Real Madrid. A few years ago, he was not even being considered. He was put on the bench. Luka Modric was easily nudging him out, but now, you know, he's very, very important to the Real Madrid team. And if Spain are going to do very, very well, he and Iniesta are going to have to, you know, pull the strings. Isco, I would say that he's going to have a magical World Cup. They are going to be definitely fireworks, and he's going to pull them.
Toni Kroos?
Toni Kroos, definitely. He is just like last World Cup. Whatever good Germany do, he's always behind that. He's the best link for defense and offense. So he's definitely going to be an essential player. And the way he links up with his teammates is something that's going to work in Germany's favor if he's in form.
He's one of the most, I would say, the most underrated player going into the 2014 World Cup. The reason being is that he won the Champions League in 2013 for Bayern Munich and then moved to Real Madrid. He had a magical 2014 where he actually managed to where he actually helped win the Champions League with Real Madrid, and he helped Germany win the World Cup in 2014. He was such an important player because he's the sort of player who protects the defense and links up the attacking midfielder. Go forward. During that 2014 to 2017, he's won 3 Champions Leagues. He's won the World Cup in 2014, and he's been phenomenal. I think that going forward, he's now a mature player for an experienced campaigner for Germany. And if Germany are going to do well, he's the one who's going to have to pull the strings.
Now let's move on. Who should we choose? Should we just get to, let's get to the big boys. Neymar.
Neymar, definitely. He has really come alive ever since he has arrived in France, apart from the off-the-field issues that he's had, which is normal for legendary Brazilian players. But yeah, he is going to be, people expect him to carry the weight of the Brazilian football team on his shoulders, and I expect him to do really very well. He has got a very good supporting crew with him, the likes of Luan, Jesus, and these players should be able to make things easier for Neymar, but in order for Brazil to shine in this World Cup, Neymar has to deliver.
And I mean, the improvement has been absolutely staggering. He had a brilliant World Cup 4 years ago. It was unfortunate that he got injured at such a crucial time, but he's only gotten better since then, hasn't he?
He was the poster boy for 2014. The amount of pressure this young boy carried back in 2014 was incredible. Playing in, having the World Cup in Brazil after 50 years and having him carry all the burden of the Brazilian expectations on his shoulders. It was a bit too much for him, after which he got injured. And then it was only after he injured that his team, Brazil, got clobbered 7-1 by Germany. But this time it's a more mature Neymar going forward. Neymar has a good team around him, and now is the time for this Neymar. If he wants to be the world's best, and if he wants to be a contender for the FIFA World Player of the Year, he has to perform extremely well and win the World Cup for his country.
And he too, I think, wants to show the world, or also show himself, that he can be as good as Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. He believes he can be a legend right there in that category. One of the reasons why I think he probably made that move to PSG. I'm sure the money had something to do with it as well. But that could be a reason. So he should be very, very dangerous going into this World Cup.
Definitely, he is one of the players to watch at the World Cup. Everyone expects him to do well. He was amazing for Barcelona. He moved on to France to carve out his own identity because living under the shadow of Messi is not an easy job. And for a player of his ability, I would understand why he wanted to leave. But now that he has a place where he can carve his own identity, he has an even better chance to do it for his country. At the end of the day, the debate always boils down to the fact that if a great player has done well for the club, what has he achieved for his national team? This is Neymar's chance to be mentioned in the same breath as the likes of Pele, Socrates, and all.
Right. So we're going to get some of the players if we have time. We've named 10. Remember, we've tried to get through a few. Right now, we have Mr. Nabil Tahir online with us, a football analyst. Nabil, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Nabil, your thoughts on the World Cup draw. What have you made of it?
It was very interesting. Maybe some of us were, hoping for a lot of group of death, difficult groups, but we didn't get those. But some people have been saying that there is no group of death. I think the Germany's group maybe it doesn't have the top 4 teams maybe in the World Cup, but it's a very tough group. With Sweden, Korea, Mexico. Maybe Germany is a notch above these groups, but I think it's a tough group.
Absolutely, yes. And Nabil, in your opinion, which team will be the dark horse of this tournament? Which team will surprise the big boys?
I'll come to telling you about the team that can surprise everyone. But I think Germany and Spain are top of the league again. They're favorites, and I think if there's a surprise element that you're talking about, the home team, they have a cutting edge in a lot of these cups. When it was the cup was held in South Africa, they did very well. In Korea and Japan, they did really well. So Russia, you can't count Russia out. I think they'll move forward a lot.
Nabil, I'm sure it must be disappointing that top teams like Italy and the Netherlands didn't make it through. Do you think that will take the sting out of Russia 2018, or are there enough teams there to excite us all?
No. A World Cup is a World Cup. Definitely, especially for the people of those two countries, it will be very, very disappointing. And even Italy has followers all over the world. I really like the Italy team as well. So it will be a bit disappointing, but it shouldn't affect the World Cup. The World Cup, it has so many teams, so many new and exciting teams are there. So you maybe if Italy is not there and if Netherlands is not there, maybe teams like Panama who have made it through the South American team. I think these teams are good, and they'll excite us all as well. And there'll be an element of surprise in this World Cup.
Final question, Nabil, in your opinion, who's going to be the player of Russia 2018?
It's hard to say, but I'll be rooting for Eden Hazard, Belgium.
Because he's your favorite player, I know that. We're going to leave it at that. Nabil Tahir, thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you. Great speaking to you.
Right, let's get through some of the players. He mentioned Hazard, of course. He's definitely one to watch out for. But because we're running out of time, let's get to Messi and Ronaldo. First, Cristiano Ronaldo, who will hope to have a better World Cup. I think it's safe to say that he has underperformed in World Cups.
Yeah, when it comes to major championships for Portugal, Ronaldo has not really been able to perform as well as he has done for Manchester United and then Real Madrid. But things changed a couple of years back at the European Championship. He had a very talented squad with him, a squad that was able to share the pressure with their captain, something that Messi did not have, unfortunately. Ronaldo is expected to perform. He should perform very well this time around. It might be, him reaching the twilight years of his career, so he would want to at least help his country get as far as possible.
This is his last opportunity to win a World Cup. He's won everything in the game. He's won the European Championships, everything on club level. So this is the one tournament which he wants to, because this is his last chance. He's going to be 33 at the next World Cup. He's going to be captaining the side. I don't see him playing Qatar 2022. So I think that if he's going to give it all his best, this is the last tournament which he's going to make sure that
Does he have the team to do it?
I think the team, well, they've already proved it in 2016. Probably the team is very similar to 2016, but what's important this time, Ali, is Ronaldo needs to be fit. In 2014, he wasn't fit. He was carrying an injury after winning the Champions League in 2014. So it's important that he has good form and that the team assists him. He did well in 2006, that he made the semi-finals and lost to France. But other than that, he's really underperformed on World Cup level. I think he's going to do well in 2018, provided they actually exit the group of death.
Lionel Messi.
Well, Lionel Messi, we all know what to expect from him. He will play his heart out. He will do everything he can to ensure that his team eventually ends up winning the World Cup. Obviously, it's a very tough ask. This Argentina team has a lot of flair and everything, but when it comes to showing up on big occasions, they somehow miss out. So for Messi to perform and his teammates not being able to at least aspire to reach a little closer to his level might be Argentina's and Messi's undoing.
Ali, final thought. We couldn't get through the 10 players because we run out of time. Final thought, and it's going to be on Lionel Messi. And we've got
Lionel Messi, this is his, like I mentioned of Cristiano Ronaldo, this is his last chance. I mean, he's won everything in club football, but you know, he's not won an international tournament. He'll have a huge burden. If he wants to be considered as one of the greatest players of all time, he needs to win a tournament with his country. This is his opportunity. If the world is going to be set, if he wants to put the demons of Brazil 2014 behind him, he needs to perform well, but at the same time, do extremely well, and when they reach the pinnacle, if they make the final, win it and score the winning goal.
We're going to leave it at that, gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming on the show. It was a pleasure. That's all we have time for. Keep watching Sports Extra on PTV World. See you next time. Bye-bye.
asking